The Institute for Faith and Freedom at Grove City College presents Liberty Mail with the Student Fellows of Faith and Freedom.
Welcome back to Liberty Mail. I'm Katie Kenline, and we are recording this exciting podcast episode during the Institute for Faith and Freedom's annual conference at Grove City College. It's wonderful to have a very special guest in the studio with us today, Michael Medved, a great friend of IFF who regularly joins the annual conference. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I think this is the 12th conference that I've been to. I think I've been to all of them. I missed one because of illness.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, but I've been to all the others, and it's great. It's something I look forward to all year. It's the best event of its kind in the country.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you. It's so great to have you. And for those of you who are not familiar, Michael Medved is a nationally syndicated radio host, a best-selling author, and a veteran film critic. His daily 3-hour broadcast reaches more than 3.5 million listeners on nearly 200 stations across the country, and his show consistently ranks as one of the top 10 political talk shows in the United States. And since 1996, he has lived in my home state of Washington in Seattle, where you said just outside. But yeah, we're so happy to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm so delighted to be here, and despite the weather.
Yes, it's rainy. You know, then people make the joke about it. It must be, it's like Seattle.
Right.
Yes.
But Pennsylvania gets more rain than Washington State.
I know. This is, for our listeners, that's an important thing to know, that Pittsburgh has more rain than Seattle. But we'll move on to more pressing topics. But one of those things is that you have a new film coming out that is really based on some of the most recent books that you've written. The film, and we're very pleased to be able to show it tonight at our conference, is called The American Miracle, Our Nation is No Accident. Could you talk to us about some of the books that you wrote that really led to the creation of this movie? What inspired it?
Sure. I ended up doing 2 books on this theme because it was too much material to fit into one.
Wow.
And so the first book is The American Miracle, Divine Providence, and the Rise of the Republic. And it covers from the Pilgrims up until Lincoln's assassination. Okay. And the second book begins on the night of Lincoln's assassination, something else that happened that night that actually was very positive for America.
Wow.
And it goes from that until another assassination, the assassination of Robert Kennedy. The second book is called God's Hand on America, Divine Providence in the Modern Era. And so what happened is I had done radio versions of the books, reading the text, so it would go out, and a number of people approached me about the idea of trying to make a movie out of it.
That's wonderful.
And so against all odds, the money came together. I found terrific people that I've been working with. Tim Mahoney is a veteran documentary filmmaker. He makes a series called Patterns of Evidence, which actually applies scientific measures to biblical stories.
Wow.
And he's been the real driving force of getting this movie done. And the movie covers the first 50 years of the American experience, with a big emphasis on the Constitutional Convention.
Wow. No, that sounds great. And it does sound, in this theme of Providence, I think is beautiful to look and see at the rich history of our country, but also it might be providential in a way. I know Dr. Kengor has spoken on this podcast about how hard it was to get the Reagan movie made, to get this type of film made. God's hand is in that also in smaller ways. We could see that too.
I hope so. I hope we do as well as the Reagan film did, which I can give a very positive review to. And it's just a wonderful movie. And this movie has, if anything, an even more sweeping scope. And the dominant figure is George Washington. And what's interesting is they got secured rights, which is very, very rare, for us to film at George Washington's home in Mount Vernon.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And it turned out one of the reasons that happened is because the actor playing George Washington is somebody who for more than 20 years has been doing George Washington for tourists at Mount Vernon.
Wow.
So he knows all the details, the idiosyncrasies of pronunciation that George Washington had in real life. And so that's quite wonderful. Plus it has smaller parts, but crucial parts for Kevin Sorbo, who was Hercules on TV,
Yes.
and Pat Boone, and Richard Dreyfuss. So it's a number of fairly well-known names sprinkled in with some of the leading scholars in American history who comment on the action that's also dramatized on film.
That's really wonderful. I think, and maybe this is about George Washington, but one of the things you talk about in your book is your favorite, or improbabilities or miracles that you've seen in the American experiment. What are some of your, are there any that you want to share with listeners? Maybe it's about Washington, but your favorites.
Well, the one thing, it's actually about George Washington, our first president, but our second president and our third president ran against each other twice for president. And John Adams won the first time, and Thomas Jefferson won the second time. And it turned out that they both had unusually long lives. I mean, freakishly long. John Adams lived to 90, and Jefferson was 83, and this is at a time when the normal life expectancy was 40. And what happened is they both wanted to live to see the 50th anniversary, the grand jubilee of the country that they had helped to start. And so they wanted to survive until July 4th, 1826. And on that day, they both, with great satisfaction and pride, they both died.
Wow.
And the last words reported for John Adams was, "Liberty is safe, Jefferson still lives."
Oh, wow.
And he hadn't. I mean, Jefferson had died a couple of hours before.
Wow.
But the odds against that happening, the two guys on the same day, no two presidents have ever died on the same
Absolutely.
day other than that. It was also the 4th of July, and it was also the 50th 4th of July. It was
Wow.
a Jubilee 4th of July, and John Quincy Adams, John Adams' son, was the president at that time.
Wow. No,
So
that's,
fairly remarkable.
yes, that is remarkable. And then one of the other things is just another phrase you use is a shared common faith in a master plan, which, can be just just seeing God's hand over everything. What do you see in those, the men who shaped America? What do you see about their faith, or just that belief in a shared master plan? How did that?
Well, because it was demonstrated time and again. George Washington, the worst moment of the American Revolution was in the summer of 1776, right after the Declaration of Independence. Washington lost the Battle of Brooklyn. He had 3 generals who were either captured or killed. His army was trapped, and it was trapped between a British army, which was 3 times larger, and a British fleet in the Hudson River. And there was no escape, it appears. This is in August of 1776. It's right after the Declaration. And then something happened that even the British commanders thought was miraculous, because it's August, but there was an intense fog that came down at night that gave them the chance, the Americans, to get the whole army out of harm's way to cross the river to Manhattan. And because of the fog, they were right in view of these British ships.
Wow.
That could have easily blown them out of the water. And by the way, they did a remarkable job actually showing all the special effects with what this was and what it meant to the people who witnessed it.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. So it will be in the film.
Oh, it's in the film.
That's wonderful, and we can't wait to see it. But
I should
for
also
our audience, yes.
I should also say that the film, we're having our grand national premiere
Yes.
of the film, and it's just been authorized at Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
That's wonderful.
And that will be on June 4th of this year.
That's wonderful. We'll be sure to put that below for people who want more information. But one of the other things I was wondering is, do you see this master plan continue, God's providence in his hand? How do you see it continue to unfold into our time.
I think it's really very tough to look at things as they're happening.
Oh, that's a very, yeah.
And after they happen, you can sort of see it. Like one of the stories, and this is not in the movie, but it's in the second book. I mentioned the Lincoln's assassination, terrible dark day, and losing our greatest president, and losing him that way of being shot in the back of the head while he was watching the theater, all terrible. But what most people don't know is there was actually a plot to basically destroy the government. And it wasn't just Lincoln who was a target, it was the vice president and the Secretary of State. Secretary of State was William Henry Seward. And he actually was attacked, and with a Bowie knife, a former Confederate soldier came in to his home and stabbed him about 7 times in the throat. He survived. How did he survive? Because 5 days before, he had had a carriage accident, and the doctors had fitted him with a brace for his neck, and the brace was made out of metal.
Wow.
So the blade of... Now, all of this is very important because without William Henry Seward as Secretary of State, he single-handedly arranged and insisted on the purchase of Alaska.
Wow.
And Putin, just recently, about 7 years ago, Putin wrote a piece saying that if America had not taken Alaska, Russia would have won the Cold War because they would have had missiles so much closer to the United States. In any event, it's fascinating to think about because the odds against being stabbed in the throat repeatedly and surviving are phenomenal.
Yes, it is. And you said that's in your second book?
That's in God's Hand on America.
Wow,
right.
that's wonderful.
And another one, quickly. Gold being discovered in California. It changed everything. Because first of all, one of the greatest and fastest migrations in human history. There were 300,000 people who came out because of the California gold rush. And gold rush was in 1848. And then, of course, California became a state in 1850. But here's the thing. At the time that gold was actually discovered, nobody knew that California belonged to America.
Wow.
The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the treaty ending the Mexican War that gave California to the United States, it was a very complicated thing involving a guy named Nicholas Trist, who actually disobeyed the instructions of his president, James K. Polk, to sign. And there's no question, if people had known in Mexico that they were giving away this, it was the largest gold strike at the time ever, anywhere. It would have changed history phenomenally. And the fact that it was actually happening in the same week, but people didn't know because of the problems with transportation and communication at that time.
Wow.
That one is pretty amazing to me, and that's in the first book.
Wow. Well, that's really exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that. We'd love for you all to read these 2 books. We'll have the titles and some links below, as well as information about this new movie coming out. It sounds like maybe if I'm in D.C. this summer, I'd love to be at the Kennedy Center when.
Well, you should. The producer, co-producer of the movie, Ralph, is here at Grove City, and speak to him. He'll make sure you get an invitation.
Oh, well, thank you. And everyone else will be able to find this. I'm sure it'll be information online in their local theaters.
Absolutely.
That's so great.
You can go to michaelmedved.com or go online to find more information on the American Miracle movie.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you again for being here today.
You bet. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
For more information on Liberty Mail or the Institute for Faith and Freedom, visit faithandfreedom.com.